Hello everyone, and welcome to Fresh Master Channel. Today, we are going to have some story from Reddit. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below. These simple clips mean a lot to the future of this channel.
The applause thundered across the university auditorium as I watched my daughter Macy cross that stage. 21 years old, summa cum laude, her cap sitting perfectly on those blonde curls that reminded me so much of her mother when we first met. 4 years of double shifts at the factory, 4 years of ramen dinners so she could eat steak, 4 years of driving a rust bucket Toyota so her tuition checks never bounced. But none of that mattered now. "I want to thank the man who really supported me through college," Macy said into the microphone, her voice carrying across hundreds of proud families. "The man who believed in me when I needed it most. Wes Lockwood. You're the father I always needed." My hands went numb. The red rose I'd brought, her favorite since she was 7, slipped from my fingers and hit the auditorium floor with a whisper that sounded like thunder in my ears. Around me, other parents shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Peterson from down the street avoided my eyes. The Johnsons suddenly found their programs fascinating. Everyone knew. Everyone had known except me. A black Mercedes-Benz squealed into the pickup lane outside. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched my wife Diana emerge from the passenger side, her red dress catching the afternoon sun like fresh crimson. She told me she was too sick to come. "Food poisoning," she'd said. "Couldn't risk embarrassing Macy." Wes Lockwood stepped out of the driver's side, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit, Diana's business partner for the last 3 years, the man who'd helped her start that consulting firm, the man who'd been to our house for dinner dozens of times, shaking my hand and calling me buddy. Macy descended the stage steps like she was floating. Still wearing her cap and gown, she ran toward the Mercedes. Diana opened her arms. Wes smiled like a proud papa. They climbed into that gleaming car without a backward glance. I stood there holding my reservation confirmation for Romano's, Macy's favorite restaurant since high school. Table for 3, 7:30. I'd written her a letter too, 4 pages about how proud I was, how she'd always been the light of my life, how watching her succeed made every sacrifice worthwhile. The letter was still in my jacket pocket, still sealed, still pointless. The auditorium emptied around me. Janitors began stacking chairs. I walked to my Toyota like a condemned man approaching the gallows, each step echoing in the vast space. The engine coughed to life on the 3rd try, and I drove home through streets that suddenly looked foreign. Our house, my house, sat on Maple Street like it had for 18 years. Same blue shutters Diana had insisted on painting. Same rose bushes I'd planted when Macy turned 5. Same mailbox with the Hale family, painted in cheerful yellow letters. But the driveway was empty. Diana's Lexus was gone. I opened the front door to silence, not the comfortable quiet of a home waiting for its family to return, but the hollow echo of abandonment. In the kitchen, a note waited on the granite countertop Diana had begged for 3 Christmases ago. "Thomas, we're staying at Wes's tonight. Macy wants to celebrate properly. Don't wait up. Decelerate properly." Like I was some embarrassing uncle who'd crashed the real party. I crumpled the note and threw it toward the trash can. It missed by 2 feet, landing on the floor like everything else in my life. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Normal sounds for a normal evening in a normal home. But I wasn't normal anymore. I was the father who didn't matter, the husband who wasn't invited, the man whose 21 years of sacrifice had been erased by 1 sentence from a stage. I climbed the stairs to Macy's room. Pink walls covered with photos and ribbons and certificates. Academic awards dating back to elementary school. Science fair trophies. Honor roll certificates. All of it paid for with overtime shifts and skipped lunches and postponed dreams. On her desk sat a framed photo from her 18th birthday. Macy in the middle, Diana on her left, me on her right. We were all smiling. We looked happy. We looked like a family. I picked up the frame and studied my own face. Was I already invisible then? Had they already started planning their exit? When exactly had I become disposable? My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. "Staying at Wes's tonight. Maybe tomorrow, too. Need some space to think." Space to think. 21 years of marriage, and she needed space to think. I typed back. "About what?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "About us. About what I want. About what I need. What about what I need?" The dots never came back. I walked to our bedroom, my bedroom now apparently, and sat on the edge of the king-size bed we'd bought 2 years ago. Diana had wanted Egyptian cotton sheets. Thread count mattered, she'd said. Quality of life mattered. But I didn't matter. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through 2 years of text messages, birthday wishes, grocery lists, pickup times, the mundane communications of a family going through the motions, looking for clues I'd missed, signs of the coming betrayal. There weren't any, or maybe I'd been too blind to see them. At midnight, I called Diana. "Thomas, it's late. When did you stop loving me?" Silence stretched between us like a chasm. "I don't want to do this over the phone." "When?" I pressed. "I don't know. Gradually. You worked so much. You were always tired. We stopped talking about anything except bills and schedules, and I worked so much for her, for both of you." "I know, but somewhere along the way, we stopped being husband and wife and became roommates, business partners." "So you found a new partner?" Another silence. "Wes understands me. He listens. He makes me feel..." "Feel what?" "Alive." The word hit me like a physical blow. 21 years of marriage, and she needed another man to feel alive. What about Macy? When did I stop being her father? "You didn't stop being her father, Thomas, but Wes has been there for her in ways you couldn't. The school events you missed because of work, the college visits, I was working to pay for those college visits." "I know, but being there matters more than paying for things." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall. Instead, I asked the question that would haunt me forever. "Are you coming home?" "I don't know. When will you know? I need time." "How much time?" "I don't know, Thomas. I don't know." She hung up. I sat in the dark, holding a dead phone, listening to the house settle around me. 21 years of dreams creaking and groaning as they collapsed. At 3 a.m., I finally understood. I wasn't losing my family. I'd already lost them. The graduation ceremony wasn't the beginning of the end. It was just the moment I'd finally been told. I opened my laptop and began researching divorce lawyers. Attorney Sarah Mitchell's office smelled like leather and old money. Her Harvard law degree hung behind a mahogany desk that probably cost more than my monthly salary. But her reputation for destroying cheating spouses was worth every penny of her $500 per hour rate. "Mr. Hale," she said, studying the file I'd spent 3 days preparing. "This is remarkably thorough documentation. I'm good with details." She smiled, the first time anyone had smiled at me in 3 weeks. "Bank records, phone logs, employment history, property deeds. Most clients come in here with tissue boxes and accusations. You came with evidence. Will it help?" "Oh, it'll more than help. Your wife thinks she's dealing with a heartbroken husband. She has no idea she's dealing with an accountant who moonlights as a detective." I'd spent those 3 weeks documenting everything. Every tuition payment from my checking account, every parent-teacher conference I'd attended alone because Diana was busy, every birthday party, every Christmas morning, every school play where I was the only parent with paint under his fingernails and exhaustion in his eyes. Diana had called twice, both times asking for more space and time to figure things out. I'd agreed pleasantly. "Sure. Take all the time you need. Think it through. Make sure you're certain." I didn't mention the private investigator. "The good news," Sarah continued, "is that Texas has specific statutes regarding dissipation of marital assets. If we can prove your wife has been spending community property on her boyfriend, the court will not be pleased. Define spending." She opened a manila folder. "Weekend trips to Napa Valley. Dinner at restaurants that cost more than your monthly grocery budget. A pair of diamond earrings purchased 3 days before your daughter's graduation. All paid for with credit cards that you're legally responsible for." My jaw clenched. She bought him jewelry? She bought herself jewelry, with his influence. There's a difference, legally speaking, but the effect is the same. Community property used to support an adulterous relationship. "What about custody of my daughter?" Sarah's expression softened. "Mr. Hale, your daughter is 21 years old. Custody isn't an issue anymore. But legal adult children can be very vocal about their preferences in court, especially when it comes to character testimony. She'll support her mother. Maybe. Or maybe she'll surprise you. Children often have complicated feelings about infidelity, even when they're adults. But that's not our primary concern right now. Our concern is making sure you don't lose everything you've worked for. I'd already lost everything that mattered. But the house, the retirement accounts, the life insurance policies, those were the consolation prizes. The scoreboard tallies of a wasted life. What's our strategy?" Sarah leaned back in her chair. Aggressive disclosure. We file for divorce on grounds of infidelity and immediately request temporary restraining orders preventing the dissipation of assets. We demand forensic accounting of all marital property. We make this as expensive and public as possible. Public? Infidelity cases require evidence, Mr. Hale. Evidence means depositions. Depositions mean sworn testimony under oath about very personal matters. Your wife's business reputation, her social standing, her relationship with your daughter, all of it becomes fair game. I thought about Diana's consulting firm, high-end clients who paid premium prices for discretion and professionalism. How would they feel knowing their advisor had been embezzling community property to fund an affair? When do we start? I'll file the papers this afternoon. But Mr. Hale, I need you to understand something. Once we pull this trigger, there's no going back. Divorce becomes warfare, scorched earth. Your wife will hate you forever. She already does. She just hasn't admitted it yet. Sarah nodded grimly. Then let's give her something to really hate. The papers were served 3 days later. Diana called me screaming at 6:47 p.m. How dare you? How dare you embarrass me like this? Embarrass you? I'm not the one who's been screwing my business partner. Don't you dare take that tone with me. I asked for time to think, and you responded by hiring some shark to destroy my life. Your life? What about my life, Diana? What about the 21 years I spent building something you threw away for a man with a nicer car? This isn't about money. Everything's about money. You think Wes would look twice at you if you were waiting tables at Denny's? She hung up. She called back 10 minutes later. I want half of everything. Talk to your lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. Then you better get one. A good one. Because mine thinks we can prove you've been stealing from me to pay for your midlife crisis. This time, I hung up on her. Macy called an hour later. Dad, what are you doing to Mom? I'm divorcing her, sweetheart, just like she asked me to. She didn't ask for a divorce. She asked for space. Space to screw her boyfriend without feeling guilty about it. I decided to remove the guilt permanently. That's horrible. Mom's crying. She can't stop crying. She should have thought about that before she started lying to me. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference, though I understand how you might confuse the two. I can't believe you're doing this. Wes said you'd try to destroy Mom out of spite. Wes has opinions about me now? That's interesting. What other insights has your new daddy shared? Don't call him that. Why not? He's the man who supported you through college, remember? The father you always needed? Seems like Daddy fits perfectly. She was crying now. Good. Maybe tears would wash away some of the delusion. I hate you. That's fine, sweetheart. Hate is honest. It's better than the fake love I've been getting for the last few years. She hung up. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my empty living room, waiting for the next call. It came at midnight. Wes Lockwood himself. Thomas, we need to talk. Mr. Lockwood, how nice to finally hear from you directly. Most men who destroy families prefer to work through intermediaries. That's not fair, and you know it. Fair? You want to discuss fairness? Let's start with the fairness of screwing another man's wife while eating dinner at his table. Diana and I fell in love. It wasn't planned. These things happen. These things happen to people who let them happen. I wouldn't know. I was too busy working to support the woman you fell in love with. Look, I understand you're hurt. You understand nothing. You're a manipulator who targeted a vulnerable woman going through a midlife crisis. But the hunting season just ended, Wes. Now it's my turn. What do you want? The question I'd been waiting for. The moment when the seducer realizes he might have to pay for his conquest. I want my wife to learn what expensive love costs. I want my daughter to understand that actions have consequences. And I want you to discover that destroying families is a very expensive hobby. Diana didn't destroy anything. Your marriage was already over. Then you won't mind paying for the funeral. I hung up and turned off my phone. Let them call each other and compare notes. Let them realize that the quiet, hardworking man they dismissed as irrelevant was about to become the most important person in their lives. Because I was going to dismantle them, methodically, legally, completely. And I was going to enjoy every minute of it. Sarah Mitchell's conference room felt like a war room. Documents covered the table in neat stacks, financial records, phone logs, credit card statements, travel receipts, evidence of a double life I'd been too blind to see. The forensic accountant's preliminary report, Sarah said, sliding a bound folder across the table. Your wife has been very busy with your money. I opened the folder and felt my stomach drop. $47,000 in business expenses over the last 18 months. Hotel rooms in Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. Restaurants that charged more for dinner than I made in a week. A jewelry store receipt for $8,000. Diamond earrings purchased the day before Macy's graduation. She bought diamonds while I was eating gas station sandwiches to save money for her daughter's celebration dinner. It gets worse, Sarah said. Look at page 12. A bank statement from an account I'd never seen. Diana's name only. Deposits totaling $22,000 over 6 months. Where did this money come from? That's what we're going to find out. But notice the deposit dates. They correspond exactly with payments your wife received for her consulting contracts. She's been skimming. More than skimming, she's been operating a shadow business. Same clients, same services, but the money goes into an account you don't know about. Classic financial infidelity. I studied the statements. Diana had been playing me for a fool while building her escape fund. Every contract I'd helped her negotiate, every client I'd entertained at our dinner table, every business success I'd celebrated with her, all of it designed to support her exit strategy. How long before we can depose her? 2 weeks? But first, we need to talk strategy. Diana's attorney is Marcus Webb. He's expensive and aggressive. He'll try to paint you as a controlling husband who drove your wife away through emotional neglect. Let him try. Thomas, I need you to understand something. In family court, perception matters more than facts. Diana is an attractive woman who will claim she felt trapped in a loveless marriage. You're a blue-collar worker who could be portrayed as angry and vindictive. The judge might sympathize with her story. Even with evidence of financial fraud, even with evidence, judges are human. They make emotional decisions and then find legal justifications. We need to control the narrative. How? Sarah smiled coldly. We make her the aggressor. Every document, every deposition question, every court filing emphasizes one theme. Diana Hale is a calculating hunter who used her husband's trust and resources to fund an affair while planning her financial escape. That's exactly what she did. I know, but we need to prove it in a way that makes the judge angry at her instead of sympathetic. We start with Wes Lockwood. What about him? He's got problems of his own. My investigator found some interesting information. 3 marriages, 3 divorces, each one involved allegations of infidelity. His second wife sued him for alienation of affection and won a significant judgment. Alienation of affection, a tort claim. When someone intentionally interferes with a marriage and causes emotional damage to the innocent spouse, not every state recognizes it, but Texas does. And the beauty is, it's a civil action separate from the divorce. We can sue Wes directly for destroying your marriage. I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not hope for reconciliation, that was dead and buried. Hope for justice. How much can we get? Depends on what we can prove. Emotional distress, loss of consortium, punitive damages for particularly egregious conduct could be substantial, enough to make Wes seriously reconsider the cost of his romance. When do we file? After the divorce is final. We want Diana to think the worst is over before we introduce her boyfriend to the legal system. But first, we need to prepare for her deposition. Sarah opened another folder. These are the questions I plan to ask. I want you to read them carefully and think about how she might respond. Diana is going to try to make you look like the villain in your own marriage. I scanned the list. When did you first begin your relationship with Wes Lockwood? Did you use marital funds to pay for gifts or entertainment related to this relationship? Did you discuss divorce with Mr. Lockwood before informing your husband? Have you opened any financial accounts unknown to your husband? 23 pages of questions designed to expose every lie Diana had told and every boundary she'd crossed. By the time Sarah finished with her, Diana would be legally without clothes and emotionally destroyed. She's going to hate this. She's going to hate you. There's a difference. And honestly, Thomas, that might be the best thing that happens to you in this process. Why? Because right now, part of you still loves her. Part of you still hopes she'll come to her senses and apologize and beg for forgiveness. That part of you is dangerous. It makes you vulnerable to manipulation. Sarah was right. Despite everything, the lies, the betrayal, the public humiliation, I still love the woman Diana used to be, or the woman I thought she was. That love was a liability now. When she's sitting in that deposition room answering questions about hotel receipts and secret bank accounts and intimate details of her affair, she's going to look at you with pure hatred. And that's when you'll finally understand that the woman you married is gone. What's left is just someone who shares your name and wants to take your money. What if I can't do it? What if I can't watch her be destroyed? Then you'll lose everything, and she'll move to Wes's house with your money in her pocket and your daughter calling her a hero for escaping an abusive marriage. The words hit like a slap. Diana was probably already crafting that narrative. Poor Diana, trapped with a workaholic husband who never appreciated her. Brave Diana, finally finding the courage to seek happiness with a man who understood her needs. I'll do whatever it takes. Good, because the deposition is just the beginning. Once we have her testimony under oath, we use it to destroy her credibility in front of the judge. We show that she's been living a double life, stealing money and lying to everyone, including her own daughter. What about Macy? How do I handle her? Sarah's expression softened slightly. That's the hardest part, Thomas. Your daughter is going to be angry and confused and probably blame you for everything. Diana will use Macy as a weapon against you. She'll tell her things designed to make you look cruel and vindictive. Macy already hates me. Maybe. But children, even adult children, eventually figure out the truth. It might take months or years, but eventually Macy will understand what really happened. Your job is to survive long enough for that revelation. And if she never figures it out, then you'll have to live with that. But you'll live with it in your own house, with your financial security intact, knowing you fought for what was yours instead of letting yourself be robbed. I thought about Macy's graduation speech, her bright smile as she thanked the man who really supported her, the way she'd run to Wes's car without a backward glance. Maybe I'd already lost her. Maybe Diana had poisoned that well so thoroughly that nothing I did would matter. But I could still protect myself from complete destruction. When's the deposition scheduled? Next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Diana's attorney wanted it at his office, but I insisted on neutral ground, the court reporter's office downtown. More formal, more intimidating. Will she bring Wes? God, I hope so. There's nothing I'd love more than to have him sitting there listening to his girlfriend detail their affair under oath. But her attorney isn't that stupid. Sarah gathered the documents and placed them in a litigation bag. Thomas, I want you to go home and think about something. This process is going to be brutal. You're going to learn things about your wife that will make you question everything you thought you knew about your marriage. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the secret bank account, the $47,000 in business expenses, the diamond earrings bought with my money for another man's pleasure. I think I already know everything I need to know. No, you don't. Trust me on this. The woman you're about to face in that deposition room is going to be someone you've never met before, someone capable of lies and manipulations you never imagined. Then it's time I met her. Sarah nodded. Tuesday at 9 a.m. Come early. We'll prep for an hour before she arrives. I drove home through the evening darkness, past houses where families were sharing dinner and watching television and living the life I'd thought I had. The life that had been stripped away one graduation speech at a time. But for the first time in months, I felt like I was fighting back instead of just absorbing punishment. Diana wanted a war? Fine. She was about to discover that 21 years of marriage had taught me a few things about her weaknesses, and I was going to exploit every single one of them. Diana arrived at the court reporter's office, wearing a navy blue suit and the expression of a woman attending her own execution. Her new attorney, Marcus Webb, looked exactly like his reputation. Expensive suit, silver hair, and the cold eyes of a man who specialized in destroying lives for billable hours. Sarah and I were already seated in the conference room when they walked in. Diana's eyes met mine for exactly 1 second before she looked away. Good. She was already off balance. Good morning, Mrs. Hale, Sarah said pleasantly. Please have a seat across from your husband. This won't take long. It took 4 hours. Sarah began with the basics: name, address, employment history. Diana answered in a monotone voice, her hands folded on the table like a schoolgirl trying to appear calm. But I could see the slight tremor in her fingers. She was terrified. Mrs. Hale, how long have you been acquainted with Wes Lockwood? About 3 years. How did you meet? Through mutual business contacts. He helped me start my consulting firm. Did Mr. Lockwood provide financial assistance for your business? Marcus Webb leaned forward. Objection? Relevance? Sarah smiled. This is a deposition, counsel. I get to ask about anything reasonably calculated to lead to discoverable evidence. The relevance will become clear. Answer the question, the court reporter instructed. Diana shifted in her chair. He provided some startup capital. It was a loan. How much? $25,000. When was this loan made? About 2 years ago. Sarah consulted her notes. According to your business registration documents, your consulting firm was established 3 years ago. Why did you need additional capital 2 years later? Diana's lawyer touched her arm, but she answered anyway. To expand operations. What kind of expansion required $25,000? Marketing? Office space? Equipment? Sarah placed a document on the table. I'm showing you Exhibit A, which is a copy of your business bank statements for the relevant period. Can you point to any deposits or withdrawals that correspond to marketing expenses, office space rental, or equipment purchases? Diana studied the statements for a long moment. Her face grew pale. Some of those expenses were paid for in cash. $25,000 in cash? Not all at once. Mrs. Hale, these statements show regular deposits of cash amounts under $10,000 each. Are you familiar with the banking regulations that require reporting of cash transactions over $10,000? Marcus Webb stood up. Counselor, are you accusing my client of money laundering? I'm asking about her business practices. If your client structured cash deposits to avoid federal reporting requirements, that would be relevant to this divorce proceeding. Diana looked like she was going to be sick. I want to take a break. We'll take a 15-minute recess, Sarah agreed. During the break, I watched Diana and her attorney huddle in the hallway through the glass door. Webb was talking rapidly, making sharp gestures. Diana kept shaking her head. When they returned, her composure was gone. Mrs. Hale, let's talk about your relationship with Mr. Lockwood. When did it become romantic in nature? I don't know what you mean. Sarah placed another document on the table. Exhibit B, hotel receipts from the Adolphus Hotel in Dallas. 2 nights in February 2023. Room registered to Mr. Lockwood, but paid for with a credit card in your name. Diana stared at the receipt like it was a venomous snake. That was a business meeting. A business meeting that required an overnight stay at a luxury hotel? We were meeting with potential clients. What clients? Silence. Mrs. Hale, please answer the question. What clients were you meeting with that justified a 2-night stay at a 5-star hotel? I don't remember the specifics. Sarah placed more receipts on the table. Exhibit C through K, additional hotel stays. All paid for with credit cards linked to accounts that your husband was legally responsible for. All rooms registered to Mr. Lockwood. Can you explain why your business meetings consistently required overnight accommodations? We had early morning appointments. At 6 p.m. on a Friday night, Diana's hands were shaking now. I don't recall the exact schedule. Mrs. Hale, you testified earlier that you have an excellent memory for business details. Do you remember purchasing diamond earrings for $8,000 on May 15th of this year? Yes. What was the occasion? I wanted to treat myself. With marital funds? With money I earned. Sarah placed the credit card statement on the table. Exhibit L shows that these earrings were purchased with a credit card account that includes your husband as a joint holder. Were you treating yourself with his money? It was our money. Did you discuss this purchase with your husband? No. Did you tell him about the earrings at all? No. Why not? Diana glanced at her attorney, who nodded slightly. Because I knew he would object. He would object to you spending $8,000 of community property without his knowledge. He would object to me spending any money on myself. Sarah paused, letting that answer hang in the air. Mrs. Hale, are you testifying under oath that your husband of 21 years would object to you purchasing reasonable personal items? He's very controlling about money. Is that why you opened a bank account he didn't know about? The color drained from Diana's face completely. What account? Sarah placed the bank statements on the table. Exhibit M, an account at First National Bank opened in your name only. Total deposits of approximately $22,000 over 6 months. Were these deposits from your consulting business? Yes. Business income that you didn't report to your husband? I was planning to tell him. When? When the time was right. When would that time have been, Mrs. Hale? After you filed for divorce? Marcus Webb objected again, but the damage was done. Diana was trapped, and everyone in the room knew it. Mrs. Hale, did Mr. Lockwood buy you jewelry? Yes. Before or after your relationship became close? After? Then he rewarded you for betraying your husband? That's not how it was. He cared about me. He wanted to make me happy. More than your husband wanted to make you happy? Yes. Sarah let that answer settle before continuing. Mrs. Hale, during your 21-year marriage, did your husband ever refuse to buy you something you needed? No, but did he ever prevent you from spending money on clothes, food, or household items? No. Did he ever restrict your access to bank accounts or credit cards? No. Then when you testified that he was controlling about money, you were lying. I wasn't lying. He didn't understand my needs. Your need for secret bank accounts, your need for expensive hotel rooms with other men, your need for diamond earrings purchased without his knowledge? Diana started crying. Real tears. Not the calculated waterworks I'd seen her use during arguments. Her carefully constructed narrative was collapsing in real time. Mrs. Hale, do you love your husband? The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. It's complicated. It's a yes or no question. Do you love Thomas Hale? Not anymore. When did you stop loving him? I don't know, gradually. Before or after you met Mr. Lockwood? Another long pause. Before. So you married a man you stopped loving, used his money to fund an affair, and hid assets from him while planning your exit strategy? That's not fair. What's not fair about it? You just testified under oath that you stopped loving your husband before you met your current boyfriend, that you used marital funds for personal expenses without his knowledge, and that you opened secret bank accounts. What part of my summary is inaccurate? Diana looked at her attorney, who was studying his notes like they contained the secrets of the universe. No help was coming. Mrs. Hale, do you believe your husband deserves half of the marital assets accumulated during your 21-year marriage? I earned most of those assets. Did you earn them alone? I built my business from nothing. With startup capital provided by your boyfriend and using contacts made through your husband's support? Thomas didn't support my business. Sarah placed another document on the table. Exhibit O, a promissory note signed by you and your husband as co-borrowers for $15,000 to help fund your business startup costs. How is this not support? Diana stared at the document like she'd never seen it before. I forgot about that loan. You forgot that your husband co-signed a $15,000 note to help you start the business you used to fund your affair. It wasn't like that. Then explain how it was. Diana couldn't. She sat there crying, her perfectly applied makeup running down her cheeks, while the court reporter typed every word into the permanent record. Sarah had one more arrow in her quiver. Mrs. Hale, has your daughter Macy ever expressed any opinion about your relationship with Mr. Lockwood? She supports my happiness. Has she ever met Mr. Lockwood? Yes. How many times? Several. Did you introduce him as your boyfriend? As a friend? When did she learn about the true nature of your relationship? Diana hesitated. Recently. How recently? Around graduation. So your daughter discovered that you were having an affair at the same time she was celebrating her college graduation? She didn't discover anything. I told her, why did you choose that moment to reveal your infidelity to your daughter? Because I was tired of lying. You were tired of lying to your daughter, but you continued lying to your husband? That's different. How is it different? Macy deserved to know the truth. And your husband didn't deserve to know the truth? Diana had no answer for that. Neither did her attorney. The deposition was over, and everyone knew it. Sarah gathered her exhibits and placed them neatly in her briefcase. Thank you for your testimony, Mrs. Hale. I'm sure we'll have more questions as this case proceeds. Diana stumbled out of the conference room like a boxer who'd taken too many hits to the head. Her attorney followed, probably calculating how many billable hours it would take to repair the damage she'd done to her own case. I sat in the empty conference room for a long moment, processing what I'd just witnessed. The woman who'd shared my bed for 21 years had been systematically dismantled in 4 hours. Every lie exposed, every secret revealed, every manipulation documented for the permanent record. How do you feel? Sarah asked. Like I just watched someone die. In a way, you did. The marriage is officially over now. Diana can't pretend this was about finding herself or needing space. She's been exposed as someone who calculated her exit strategy while lying to everyone who trusted her. What happens next? We file for summary judgment on the financial issues. With her deposition testimony, she can't credibly claim entitlement to 50% of the marital assets. We also begin preparing the alienation of affection lawsuit against Wes. Will he settle? After he reads Diana's deposition transcript. He'll probably write us a check to avoid having his name attached to this circus. I thought about Wes Lockwood sitting in his expensive house, probably expecting Diana to come home with news of a successful deposition. Instead, she'd be returning as damaged goods, a liability rather than a prize. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. During the deposition, when Diana was crying and falling apart, did you feel sorry for her? Sarah considered the question carefully. Thomas, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen hundreds of people destroy their lives through selfishness and poor choices. Diana isn't a sufferer. She's someone who got caught. But she was crying. Crocodile tears. She was crying because she got exposed, not because she felt remorse. If she'd felt genuine remorse, she would have confessed and apologized before we had to drag the truth out of her. Sarah was right. Diana hadn't cried when she was lying to me. She'd only cried when the lies stopped working. What about Macy? How do I handle her now? Carefully. She's going to be angry and confused. Diana will try to convince her that you're the villain for pursuing this aggressively. Your daughter might believe that for a while. And if she never stops believing it, then you'll know you raised a daughter who values comfortable lies more than difficult truths. Either way, you'll know where you stand. I drove home through the afternoon traffic, past billboards advertising happy families and successful businesses, and all the things that seemed possible when you believed in the people you loved. The deposition had given me legal victory, but it had also confirmed my emotional defeat. Diana was never coming home. She was never going to apologize or admit she was wrong or beg for forgiveness. She was a stranger who happened to share my name and my history. But at least now I knew who I was fighting, and I was going to win. Judge Patricia Reynolds had a reputation for being tough but fair. 20 years on the family court bench had taught her to see through manipulation and lies. That's why Sarah had specifically requested her for our case. This court has reviewed the pleadings, depositions, and financial documents submitted by both parties, Judge Reynolds said from her bench. I'm prepared to rule on the motion for summary judgment regarding property division. Diana sat at the defendant's table looking like she'd aged 10 years and 2 months. Her attorney, Marcus Webb, had the expression of a man who knew he was about to lose badly. Mrs. Hale, the judge continued, your deposition testimony reveals a pattern of deception regarding marital finances that this court finds deeply troubling. You admitted to opening secret bank accounts, making undisclosed purchases with community property, and using marital assets to fund an extramarital relationship. Diana stared at her hands. Her perfect composure was gone. Furthermore, the evidence shows that you received financial support from your paramour while diverting community property to personal accounts. This constitutes dissipation of marital assets under Texas Family Code, Section 3.402. Judge Reynolds opened the file and began reading her ruling. The court finds that Mr. Hale is entitled to reimbursement for all community property dissipated by Mrs. Hale in support of her adulterous relationship. This includes hotel expenses, restaurant charges, jewelry purchases, and cash withdrawals totaling $47,312. Diana's head snapped up. $47,000 was almost exactly the amount in her secret accounts. Additionally, the court awards Mr. Hale sole possession of the marital residence at 1247 Maple Street, all retirement accounts accumulated during the marriage, and the 2023 Toyota Camry registered in his name. Your Honor, Marcus Webb interrupted, my client has no other place to live. She needs time to find suitable housing. Your client should have considered her housing needs before committing infidelity and stealing from her husband, Judge Reynolds replied coldly. She has 30 days to vacate the marital residence. Diana started crying again, the same tears that had failed to impress anyone during her deposition. Mrs. Hale will retain her personal belongings, her clothing, and her vehicle. She will also retain her business assets, though the court notes that these assets appear to have been partially funded through the dissipation of community property. Sarah leaned over and whispered, "This is better than we hoped for, Judge." Reynolds wasn't finished. The court also awards Mr. Hale attorney's fees and costs in the amount of $28,000 to be paid from Mrs. Hale's separate property. This case represents a clear example of marital misconduct that increased the costs of litigation through dishonest testimony and concealment of assets. Diana's attorney looked sick. $28,000 would wipe out most of her liquid assets. Finally, the court wishes to address the matter of Mrs. Hale's testimony regarding her husband's alleged financial control. The evidence shows that Mr. Hale never restricted his wife's access to money, never prevented reasonable purchases, and never controlled her financial decisions. Mrs. Hale's claims of financial offense appear to be fabricated to justify her theft of community property. The judge's voice grew stern. The court finds the allegations unfounded and considers them a deliberate attempt to manipulate the proceedings. Diana was sobbing now. Her fairy tale about escaping an abusive marriage had been exposed as a calculating lie. The divorce is granted. This court's judgment is final and binding. Court dismissed. Judge Reynolds gathered her papers and left the bench. Diana continued crying while her attorney packed his briefcase with the efficiency of a man eager to escape a disaster. I felt empty. Not victorious, not satisfied. Just empty. 21 years of marriage had been reduced to a legal judgment dividing assets and assigning blame. Diana was leaving with her car, her clothes, and a massive debt to pay my attorney's fees. Thomas, we need to talk about next steps, Sarah said as we left the courthouse. Next steps? The alienation of affection lawsuit against Wes Lockwood. Now that the divorce is final, we can pursue him for damages related to his interference with your marriage. I thought about Wes, probably sitting in his office planning his future with Diana. He'd seduced a married woman, helped her steal from her husband, and encouraged her to lie under oath. In a few days, he'd discover that romance came with a price tag. How much can we get? Based on similar cases in your financial losses, we could reasonably demand $200,000. Emotional distress, loss of consortium, punitive damages for particularly egregious conduct. Will he pay? He'll negotiate. Men like Wes don't like public scandals. A trial would expose every detail of his affair, his previous divorces, and his pattern of targeting married women. He'll pay to make it go away. We walked to the parking garage in silence. Diana's car was still there. She'd have to drive home to a house that was no longer hers and tell Wes that their adventure had bankrupted her. Sarah, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think I'm the villain in this story? She stopped walking and looked at me seriously. Thomas, what would you have done if Diana had come to you 2 years ago and said she was unhappy and wanted to work on your marriage? I would have done anything she asked. Counseling, more time together, less work, more romance, anything. And if she'd said she wanted a separation to figure things out, I would have agreed. I would have moved out and given her space. And if she'd asked for a no-fault divorce because she wasn't happy anymore, I would have been heartbroken, but I would have agreed to that too. Sarah nodded. Then you're not the villain. Diana chose deception over honesty, theft over communication, and lies over difficult conversations. She created this war, not you. But I destroyed her. You defended yourself. There's a difference. I drove home to a house that was legally mine but emotionally hollow. Diana's belongings were still scattered throughout the rooms. Her coffee cup in the sink, her magazines on the nightstand, her perfume lingering in the bathroom. In 30 days, all of that would be gone. The house would be mine alone. My phone rang. Macy. Dad, how could you do this to Mom? Hello to you too, sweetheart. Don't joke with me. Mom just called crying. You took everything from her. I took back what she stole from me. She didn't steal anything. $47,000 says otherwise. That money was for her business. No, that money was for hotel rooms with her boyfriend and jewelry she hid from me. Silence on the other end. Macy, your mother lied to you just like she lied to me. She's not the sufferer here. You're forcing her out of her own house. It was never her house. I've been paying the mortgage for 18 years with money she tried to steal. Where is she supposed to live? With her boyfriend. Isn't that what she wanted? Wes doesn't want her living there full time? The admission slipped out before Macy could stop herself. Wes was already backing away from his prize now that the cost was becoming clear. Then she should have thought about that before she destroyed our marriage. She made a mistake. She made a choice, multiple choices, over several years, while lying to both of us. I hate you. You've mentioned that before. But hating me won't change the facts, and it won't save your mother from the consequences of her decisions. She's my mother, and I was your father until you decided you didn't need me anymore. Macy was crying now. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. Your mother chose her path, and you chose to support her. Now you're all learning what those choices cost. What about forgiveness? What about accountability? She's sorry. She's sorry she got caught. There's a difference. I hung up and turned off my phone. Let them comfort each other and plan their next move. Let them discover that actions have consequences and that comfortable lies eventually become expensive truths. 3 days later, Sarah called with news. Wes Lockwood wants to settle the alienation of affection claim. How much? $150,000. Full release of all claims, no admission of guilt, and a confidentiality agreement. Counter with 200. I think we can get 175. Then get it. Thomas, I have to ask, what are you going to do with this money? You've got the house, your retirement accounts, and soon you'll have a substantial settlement from Wes. You're financially secure for life. I thought about that question for a long time. What was I going to do with money that represented the complete destruction of my family? I'm going to disappear, I said finally. What do you mean? I'm going to sell the house, take early retirement, and move somewhere they'll never find me. I'm going to start over. Thomas, you're only 47 years old. You don't have to run away. I'm not running away. I'm choosing not to spend the rest of my life as the villain in their story. Diana and Macy want to believe that I'm the monster who destroyed their happiness? Fine. Let them have that narrative. I'll be the monster who disappeared. What about Macy? She might come around eventually. She chose her side. Let her live with it. 2 weeks later, Wes Lockwood's attorney delivered a cashier's check for $175,000. The same day, I put the house on the market. Diana drove by twice that week, probably hoping to see me working in the yard so she could confront me, but I wasn't there. I was meeting with real estate agents and financial advisors and making plans for a life that didn't include anyone who'd betrayed me. The house sold in 3 days. Cash offer, quick closing. The buyers were a young couple with a toddler who smiled when they walked through the rooms where my family had lived and loved and finally died. On moving day, I packed everything that mattered into a single truck. 21 years of marriage reduced to furniture and books and a few photos I couldn't bring myself to throw away. Diana's car was parked across the street, watching. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the consequences of her choices. Part of me wanted to walk over and say goodbye, the part that still remembered loving her. But that part was dangerous. That part might forgive her, or offer second chances, or believe new lies about being sorry and wanting to make things right. So I climbed into my truck and drove away without looking back. The woman in the car across the street was a stranger who happened to look like someone I used to love. I had no obligation to say goodbye to strangers. In my rearview mirror, I watched Diana get out of her car and stand in front of the house that used to be ours, crying as she realized that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Good. Let her mourn what she'd thrown away. Let her learn that consequences are permanent and that some mistakes can't be undone with tears and apologies. I had a new life to build, and it wasn't going to include anyone who'd proven they couldn't be trusted with my heart. 3 years. 3 years of silence. I'd built a new life in Asheville, North Carolina. Mountains and quiet mornings and neighbors who knew me as Tom Harper, the guy who refinished antique furniture and minded his own business. No one knew about the divorce or the betrayal or the family I'd left behind. My workshop was in a converted garage behind a small house I'd paid cash for. Every morning I'd drink coffee on the back porch and listen to birdsong instead of traffic. Every evening I'd read books and work on projects and go to bed without checking my phone for messages that never came. It was peaceful. It was lonely. It was exactly what I'd chosen. Then she knocked on my door. Macy, 24 years old now, visibly pregnant, shivering on my doorstep like a lost child. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Hello, Macy. Dad? Her voice was barely a whisper. I know I don't deserve anything from you. I know I have no right to be here, but I need help. Help with what? The baby. She's sick. Really sick. The doctors say she might not. She started crying. I don't have insurance. I don't have money. I don't have anyone else. I studied her face. 3 years of consequences had carved lines around her eyes. She looked older, beaten down, desperate. Where's your mother? She's here, in the car. I looked past Macy to see Diana sitting in a rusted Honda Civic staring at her hands. She looked like she'd aged a decade. Her hair was shorter, grayer, and her expensive clothes had been replaced with Walmart jeans and a faded sweater. Where's Wes? Macy's face crumpled. Gone. He left Mom 2 years ago when she lost her business. Took everything. Left her with nothing. Karma apparently had a sense of irony. And you? What's your story? I dropped out of law school when I got pregnant. The father left when he found out about the baby's condition. I've been working at a diner, but I can't afford the medical bills. I felt someone approaching behind me in the house. Who is it, honey? A woman's voice, soft, caring, curious. Macy's eyes widened as Rebecca appeared beside me. Tall, auburn hair, genuine smile, everything Diana had pretended to be. Rebecca was 42, a veterinarian who'd never been married and had no interest in games or manipulation. This is my daughter, I said. Macy. Oh. Rebecca's expression shifted to concern when she saw Macy's condition. Please, come in out of the rain. Macy shook her head. I can't. I just came to ask, to beg, actually. My baby has a heart defect. She'll need surgery right after birth, then more surgeries later. The costs. She pulled out a folded paper. This is the estimate. I know it's a lot, but if you could help with even part of it. I took the paper, but didn't look at it. How did you find me? It took 2 years. Private investigator. Cost everything Mom had left. So Diana had spent her last dollar tracking me down. Desperation made people resourceful. Why should I help you? The question hung between us like a blade. Macy's face went white. Because she's your granddaughter. Is she? You spent 3 years telling anyone who'd listen that Wes was your real father. That I was just some man who happened to live in your house. I was wrong. I was young and stupid, and I believed Mom's lies about you being emotionally absent. I know better now. What changed your mind? Macy looked back at the car where Diana sat hunched over the steering wheel, living with the consequences. Watching Mom realize that Wes never loved her, he just wanted a younger woman to stroke his ego. Seeing her lose everything when his ex-wife sued them both for the money he stole from their divorce settlement. And your opinion of me? I know you worked yourself to passing to pay for my education. I know you never missed a parent conference or a school play. I know you loved me even when I was horrible to you. Progress, but not enough. What about the graduation speech? Macy closed her eyes. The worst mistake of my life. Wes convinced me it would be a nice surprise for Mom. Said it would show everyone how grateful our family was for his support. I was 19 and thought it sounded sweet. You destroyed me in front of hundreds of people. I know. I've regretted it every day since. Not enough to apologize. I tried. I called and texted and wrote letters. You never responded. I changed my number and threw away the letters. She nodded miserably. I deserve that. Rebecca touched my arm gently. Tom, maybe we should let them come inside and get warm while you talk. I looked at this woman who'd brought light back into my life. Rebecca knew my story, all of it, and had chosen to love me anyway. She deserved better than having my past complications invade her peaceful world. Rebecca, this is going to get ugly. Family usually does, she said simply, but we can't let a pregnant woman stand in the rain. I stepped aside. Macy hesitated, then walked to the car and helped Diana out. My ex-wife moved like an old woman, bent by years of bad choices and worse consequences. When Diana reached the porch, our eyes met for the first time in 3 years. Hello, Thomas. Diana. She looked at Rebecca with a mixture of curiosity and jealousy. You have a beautiful home. It's not mine, Rebecca said kindly. It's Tom's. I just visit frequently. Diana's face showed surprise at hearing my new name, then resignation as she realized how completely I'd erased my old life. We sat in my living room like strangers forced together by circumstance. Diana kept looking around, cataloging the differences between this life and the one we'd shared. Handmade furniture instead of store-bought, plants and books instead of expensive electronics, simple comfort instead of status displays. You look good, Diana said quietly. I feel good. This is nice, peaceful. It is. Macy pulled out an ultrasound photo. This is her, Emma. Her heart has a hole that won't close on its own. Without surgery, She couldn't finish the sentence. I looked at the photo, a tiny profile, perfectly formed, but facing an uncertain future. My granddaughter, assuming I chose to acknowledge the relationship. How much do you need? The surgery is $80,000. Then follow-up care, medications, possible additional procedures. Maybe 200,000 total over the first few years. A fortune for someone working at a diner. Pocket change for someone who'd walked away from his old life with significant assets and no one to spend them on. What makes you think I have that kind of money? The settlement from Wes. Mom told me about the lawsuit. I looked at Diana. You told her about that? She had a right to know. You won. You destroyed us and took everything. She should understand the cost of crossing you. I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourselves. I just refused to pay for the privilege of being your sufferer. Diana's composure cracked. We were married for 21 years. Didn't that mean anything? It meant everything to me. That's why your betrayal was so devastating. I made a mistake. You made hundreds of mistakes. Every lie, every hotel room, every dollar you stole, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to love me while planning your exit. Those weren't mistakes, Diana. They were choices. Rebecca cleared her throat gently. Maybe we should focus on the baby. She was right. This wasn't about Diana and me anymore. It was about an innocent child who hadn't chosen any of this. Macy, I'll pay for the surgery and the follow-up care. Her face flooded with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. I promise I'll pay you back on one condition. The relief froze on her face. I want full legal guardianship, not custody. Guardianship. I'll raise Emma, make all decisions about her care, her education, her future. You can visit, but I'll be her parent. What? Diana exploded. You can't take her baby. I'm not taking anything. I'm offering to save a child's life in exchange for the right to actually be part of that life. Macy was crying again. Dad, she's my daughter, and you're not capable of caring for her. You have no money, no insurance, no support system, and apparently no judgment about men. What happens when the next Wes comes along and convinces you to abandon your daughter like you abandoned me? That won't happen. You said the same thing about being grateful for my sacrifices. Your promises aren't worth much. Diana stood up shakily. This is cruel, even for you. Cruel? I'm offering to spend $250,000 to save a child you can't afford to help. I'm offering stability and security and a future. What are you offering? Love. Love doesn't pay for heart surgery. Rebecca watched this exchange with growing concern. Tom, maybe there's a middle ground here. No middle ground, I said firmly. Either I'm responsible for Emma's welfare or I'm not. Either I have the authority to make decisions about her care or I'm just a checkbook to be used when convenient. Macy looked back and forth between her mother and me. If I agree, could I still see her? Supervised visits, holidays, birthday parties. But she'd live here, go to school here, grow up knowing that I'm the one who chose her when everyone else abandoned her. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Macy. Fair would have been having a daughter who honored her father instead of humiliating him. Fair would have been having a wife who talked to me instead of lying to me. Fair would have been 21 years of sacrifice counting for something. Diana collapsed back into her chair. What about me? What about you? Where do I fit in this arrangement? You don't. The words hit her like a physical blow. Emma is Macy's daughter and my granddaughter. You're just someone who used to be married to me. I'm her grandmother. You're a stranger who helped destroy her mother's relationship with her grandfather. You forfeited any claim to family privileges when you chose to burn down our family for a man who left you bankrupt? Diana started sobbing, the same tears that had failed to move me during the deposition, failing again. Macy looked at the ultrasound photo, then at me, then at Rebecca, who was radiating calm support. If I say yes, will you love her? More than anyone else ever will. Will you tell her about me? I'll tell her that her mother loved her enough to give her the best possible chance at life. And if I say no, then you leave, and Emma takes her. Chances with whatever resources you can provide. It wasn't a choice, really. It was an ultimatum designed to save a child's life while giving me something I'd thought I'd lost forever, the chance to be someone's hero instead of their villain. Macy wiped her eyes and looked at Diana. Mom, what do you think? Diana stared at me with pure hatred. I think your father is a monster who's using a sick baby to get revenge. Maybe, I agreed, but I'm a monster with the resources to save her life. That makes me a useful monster. Rebecca squeezed my hand. She understood what I was doing, even if she wasn't entirely comfortable with the methods. Macy, Diana continued, You don't have to do this. We'll find another way. What other way? We've tried everything. Charity applications, fundraising, loans. Nobody will help us. We'll figure something out. While Emma dies? While her heart gets weaker every day? I pulled out my phone and showed Macy a bank account balance. $250,000, enough for everything she'll need. Available today if you sign the guardianship papers. Macy stared at the number on the screen. You'd really do this? I'd really do this. And you'd love her? Even though I hurt you? I'd love her because she deserves to be loved, and because someone needs to break the cycle of abandonment in this family. Diana was still crying, but quieter now, the tears of someone who'd finally run out of fight. If I agree, Macy said slowly, could I maybe try to earn back your respect? Not forgiveness, I don't deserve that. But maybe prove that I learned from my mistakes? I looked at this young woman who'd inherited her mother's beauty and, unfortunately, her mother's capacity for self-destruction. But she was also my daughter, and some part of me would always love her despite everything. Respect has to be earned over time, Macy. But I'd be willing to watch you try. She nodded and pulled out her phone. I need to call my lawyer and have him draw up the papers. I'll handle the legal work, I said. I want to make sure it's done right. Diana looked up at me with something approaching surprise. You're really going to take her baby? I'm going to save her baby. There's a difference. Is there? Ask me in 20 years when Emma is healthy and happy and successful. Ask me if she feels stolen or rescued. Rebecca stood up. I'll make some coffee while you all work out the details. As she walked to the kitchen, Diana watched her go. She seems nice. She is. Do you love her? That's none of your business. But you do. I didn't answer. Diana didn't deserve to know about the peace Rebecca had brought to my life, or the way she'd helped me remember that not all women were liars and manipulators. Are you happy? Diana asked quietly. Yes. Good. I'm glad. You deserve happiness. It was probably the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. 3 hours later, Macy signed the guardianship papers. I transferred $80,000 to the hospital for Emma's surgery. Diana sat in my living room looking like someone attending her own funeral. I should go, Diana finally said. I'll just be in the way here. Where will you go? Macy asked. I don't know. Maybe back to Texas. Try to start over again. With what money? Diana shrugged. I'll figure something out. I always do. No, you don't, I said quietly. You manipulate other people into figuring things out for you. But you've burned through all your sufferers. Thomas, please, I know I hurt you, but nothing. You made your choices. You chose Wes over me. You chose lies over truth. You chose greed over family. Now you get to live with those choices. Diana stood up slowly. I suppose I deserve that. You deserve worse. You deserve to lose everything you ever cared about and spend the rest of your life wondering if different choices would have led to different outcomes. Will you at least let me say goodbye to Emma when she's born? I thought about it. One visit. At the hospital. Then you disappear. Diana nodded and walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. Sorry you got caught. Sorry you lost. Sorry Wes turned out to be exactly what I warned you he was, but not sorry for anything you did to me. She started to object, then stopped. We both knew I was right. After Diana left, Macy and I sat in uncomfortable silence while Rebecca made arrangements for the guest room. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you hate me? I considered the question seriously. No, I'm disappointed in you. I'm hurt by your choices. I don't trust you, but I don't hate you. Do you think you could ever forgive me? Forgiveness isn't something you ask for, Macy. It's something you earn through consistent behavior over time. You can't apologize your way out of 3 years of consequences. But it's possible? Anything's possible. But you'd have to prove that you've actually changed. Not just that you're sorry you got caught in the consequences of your choices. She nodded. I'll prove it. However long it takes. We'll see. That night, Rebecca and I sat on the back porch listening to rain on the mountain slopes. Are you sure about this? She asked. Taking on a baby at our age? Our age, she smiled. Well, your age. But if you're raising a child, I'll probably be involved whether I plan to be or not. You don't have to be involved in this mess. Yes, I do. I love you, Tom. That means I love the people you love, even when they've hurt you. I took her hand. What if Macy doesn't change? What if she stays selfish and irresponsible? Then Emma will have one responsible parent instead of none. That's still an improvement. And if Diana keeps trying to interfere? Then we'll handle it together. Rebecca was right. We'd handle whatever came next together. Emma would grow up in a house with two people who chose to love her instead of using her as a weapon or a bargaining chip. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I was doing something right instead of just protecting myself from being hurt again. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was how healing actually worked. Not by forgetting the past, but by choosing to build something better in spite of it. Emma was born 6 weeks later, heart surgery at 3 days old. I held her tiny hand in the NICU while machines kept her alive, and I made her a promise that no one would ever abandon her the way I'd been abandoned. Diana came to say goodbye as promised. She held Emma for 5 minutes, whispered something I couldn't hear, kissed her forehead, and walked away without looking back. Macy visited twice a week during Emma's recovery. She was genuinely trying to prove she'd changed. Time would tell if the effort was real or just another performance. But it didn't matter anymore. Emma was mine now. My responsibility, my purpose, my chance to break the cycle of betrayal that had defined my family for too long. As I sat in the hospital holding my granddaughter, watching her tiny chest rise and fall with each stubborn breath, I realized something important. Revenge was temporary, but love was permanent. I'd gotten my revenge on Diana and Wes, and even Macy. I'd made them pay for their choices in money and consequences and regret, but Emma was my reward for surviving it all. She was proof that sometimes the best response to being destroyed is to save someone else, and maybe that was enough to call it even.